The Inca civilization developed and thrived in some of the most inhospitable places on Earth. At the highest points, the air is so thin that it is difficult to breathe. Earthquakes and volcanoes were also part of the difficulties overcome by the Incas, making them quite skilled in the art of survival. The Incas formed the largest empire in pre-Columbian South America. Located mainly in the Andes Mountains, the empire encompassed present-day Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, Argentina, and a large part of Chile, as well as the most southwestern tip of Colombia. The official language of the Inca Empire was Quechua, mainly spoken by indigenous peoples of South America. It predates the Inca Empire and is still spoken today by about 10 million people in different ethnic groups. Even without using the wheel, draft animals, iron metallurgy, and a writing system, the Incas managed to maintain one of the largest imperial states in history. Their architecture was monumental, with an extensive network of roads that reached every corner of the empire. They were also responsible for great agricultural innovations, which allowed food production in a difficult environment. In the Quechua language, the word Inca means ruler, a small ruling class of approximately 40,000 individuals. These ruled over a population of about 10 million people from different ethnic groups. The Spanish adopted the term Inca to designate all subjects of the empire, not just the ruling class. The origin of the Incas is shrouded in myths and legends that may contain some historical truth. Legend has it that the first Inca ruler was Manco Cápac, a semi-legendary king and founder of the Kingdom of Cusco and the Inca lineage, to which all subsequent rulers would have some blood or spiritual connection. Around 1438, the Incas began a vast expansion under Pachacuti, conquering the present-day territory of Peru. Pachacuti reorganized the Kingdom of Cusco, and it is believed that he built the famous city of Machu Picchu in the eastern mountains of southern Peru. It is one of the country's major tourism attractions today. The Inca rule was established mostly in political negotiations. Pachacuti sent messages to the leaders of many villages, extolling the benefits of being part of his empire. He gave them lavish gifts, such as high-quality fabrics, and promised that they would be materially richer as his subjects. Most accepted the rule of the Incas, as the other option was subjugation by force. The leaders who refused were defeated in battle and executed without mercy. The families of some were spared, and their children taken to Cusco, where they learned the Inca systems of administration to later rule their native lands. The Incas referred to their empire by the name Tawantinsuyu, which means the four provinces, due to the territorial divisions of the empire. The four corners of the provinces met each other in Cusco, which had a similar role to a modern federal district. The separation of the provinces was probably created around 1460 during the reign of Pachacuti. The great leader Pachacuti had a son named Tupac Inca Yupanqui, who also became an important military leader. He was responsible for expanding the Inca Empire to Ecuador and Colombia, defeating the also strong Kingdom of Timor, which previously dominated these territories. According to some historians, male and female roles were considered equal in Inca society. Women were sometimes allowed to own land and herds, as inheritance was passed down through the maternal and paternal side of the family. Men and women shared daily chores, caring for children, weaving, cooking, preparing fields for cultivation, and building houses. They also shared the herding of llamas and alpacas, the only large animals available for domestication in those lands. They were also a source of meat, milk, and warm wool for winter. The Incas' religious beliefs encompass several rite faiths based on a mythological system that influence all aspects of life, including work, festivities, and ceremonies. They were polytheistic and worshipped local and regional deities. They believed in reincarnation after death and imagined the next world as an earthly paradise, with fields full of flowers and snow-capped mountains. For the Incas, death by fire or incineration of the corpse was taboo. Burning the body would cause the life force to disappear and threaten the passage of the deceased to the next world. This may have given rise to the custom of burying the dead in remote and hardly accessible places. Often, bodies were buried at high altitudes, such as on slopes or mountaintops. The climate of various sites chosen by the Incas to bury their dead allowed, in some cases, for their natural mummification of the bodies. Some specimens were found in highly preserved states, retaining facial features, hair, clothing, and even internal organs. The mummies found were mostly children, which revealed the cruelty of the Inca world. This proved that human sacrifices were often made, aiming to appease the wrath of the gods. La Doncella is one of the most famous Inca mummies, a 15-year-old girl who died supposedly in her sleep. Architecture was the most important Inca art. The most notable example is Machu Picchu, built by Inca engineers. The main Inca structures were made with stone blocks, whose fit was so perfect that a knife could not be inserted into the masonry. These constructions survived for centuries without the use of mortar to support them. Inca calendars were strongly attached to astronomy. Inca astronomers recorded the equinoxes, the solstices, and the cycle of the planet Venus, but they could not predict eclipses as happened in the Mayan calendar. The Inca calendar was essentially lunisolar. Two calendars were kept in parallel, one solar and one lunar. The Inca army was the strongest at the time. Any villager or farmer could be recruited as a soldier, by virtue of the compulsory public service system. Any Inca physically fit and old enough to fight had to go to war. At the height of the empire, each section contributed to the formation of an army. The Incas had no iron or steel. Their weapons were basically composed of stones and wood. The most sophisticated were produced with copper or bronze. With such rudimentary equipment, the Incas could do little against the Spanish invasions that began in 1528. In July 1529, the Queen of Spain signed a letter that allowed the Spanish conquistadors, led by Francisco Pizarro and his brothers, to begin an expedition to conquer Peru and subdue the Incas. The goal was to sack the cities and seize the reserves of natural resources and gold pieces. The Spanish invaders carried with them new diseases such as influenza, smallpox, typhus, and measles. The Incas had few natural defenses against these, and a great epidemic spread throughout the Inca cities, killing thousands of people. The Incas themselves entered a civil war over the right of succession to the throne, which further weakened the empire. In November 1532, Francisco Pizarro captured Atahualpa, the last Inca emperor. Atahualpa was imprisoned and forced to collaborate with the Spanish. He gave the Spaniards enough gold to fill the room where he was imprisoned, and twice that amount in silver. Atahualpa kept his promise during a rescue attempt, but Pizarro tricked him into refusing to release the Inca after he received the fortune. The Spanish executed Atahualpa, and the Inca Empire began to disintegrate. Many ethnic groups ruled by the Incas welcomed the Spanish invaders as liberators and established alliances with them to share dominance of the resources and mine the land. In 1572, the last Inca fortress was conquered, and the last ruler, Tupac Amaru, was captured and executed. This ended the resistance to the Spanish conquest under political authority of the Inca state. When Pizarro and the Spanish subjugated and controlled the continent, they forcibly converted many to Christianity, claiming to have educated them according to the one true religion. The Spanish colonial officials brutally enslaved the natives. One member in each family was forced to work in the gold and silver mines. The epidemics brought by the Europeans devastated the Inca people and their culture. Today, the descendants of the Incas live in the Andes and make up almost half of the Peruvian population, whose traditions maintain the pride of having once formed a mighty empire. In Inca mythology, Viracocha is the supreme god of the Andes region in South America and the creator of the entire cosmos. The god created the world and all living things after emerging from Lake Titicaca. He is also viewed as a civilizing god, bringing knowledge and culture to peoples. His cult extended to different Andean cultures, reflecting the lingering Inca influence in the region. The myths tell that Viracocha created the sun, moon, and stars, and shaped the entire landscape with his own hands. Once he had built the world, he raised a race of giants, but they were unruly or unwilling to follow Viracocha's instructions or commands. Displeased with these creatures, the god brought about a great deluge and wiped out the giants. To replace them, the god created the first human beings from pebbles. He gave them different shapes and traits, creating various groups to populate different corners of the world. Having sculpted the humans, Viracocha gave them life and specific purposes. He instructed them on how to live, work, and worship the gods. Once he had completed humanity's making and training, Viracocha vanished, promising to return in times of need. At times, Viracocha disguised himself as a beggar and wandered around the Incas to work miracles and teach his people how to live fully. Most humans, however, paid no heed to what the god had to teach, and for this reason, he returned from his journey to Earth with weeping eyes. Viracocha was afraid that, one day, men, lacking wisdom and in their corruption, would make the god weep so much that his tears would cause another flood, capable of wiping out all of humanity. The Viracocha cult was intimately bound up with Incan royalty and political power. The belief in the divine origin of the Incas provided them with a heavenly mandate to rule. They were seen not only as political leaders, but as mediators between the world of the gods and that of the humans. This view reinforced their authority and helped maintain social and political order. Manco Capac, the first Inca emperor, was described as the son or envoy of Viracocha. This drew a direct line between the deity and the royal lineage, providing divine legitimacy to the Inca rulers. Whilst the Inca civilization was eventually obliterated by the Spanish conquest of the region, Viracocha continues to be an important figure in Andean culture and is still worshipped today by several of the region's indigenous peoples. Mamacocha is the Inca water goddess, and her name means Mother of the Sea. She was often connected to fertility and purification due to her authority over the waters. She is regarded as a source of life and sustenance, and her waters are believed to have the ability to purify and replenish. The goddess was the sister and consort of the creator god, Viracocha, whose offspring were the moon goddess Mamaquilla and the sun god Inti. The goddess lorded over all bodies of water, ranging from lakes and seas to the rains. She was especially affiliated with Lake Titicaca in Peru, where many people still call it Mamacocha. It was believed that this lake was the embodiment of the goddess, or her sacred dwelling place. The Incas had a profound respect for nature and its elements, and Mamacocha was a vital part of this worldview. Her influence was not just limited to the physical aspects of the sea and water, but also included beliefs about the climate, rainfall, and rivers, all of which were essential for Andean agriculture. Rituals and offerings to Mamacocha were widespread, especially in coastal and riverside communities, as a means of securing her protection and goodwill. These customs are reflective of the goddess's importance in the Incas' daily lives, as well as the symbiotic relationship they had with the natural world around them. Pachamama is the Andean goddess of earth and fertility. She is regarded as the living earth, the source of all life. Often connected to the mountains, the earth, and the natural world, she is portrayed as a pregnant woman or a mother holding a child. A benevolent and nurturing goddess, she may also be seen as a powerful force responsible for bringing about earthquakes, landslides, and other natural disasters. This duality reflects the Andean belief that nature is equally beautiful and dangerous, with humans respecting and honoring its power. The goddess is the consort of the sun god Inti, whose support is essential in helping the goddess with her tasks. The Incan relationship with Pachamama is reciprocal. In caring for the earth, they believe that Pachamama will in turn provide them with generous harvests and protect them from natural disasters. Ceremonial rituals for Pachamama are held regularly throughout the year, especially at the peak of the agricultural cycle, as well as the start of long journeys or when visiting a sacred site. During the Inca harvest ceremonies, young women wearing long red dresses ritually embodied Pachamama Sriyumama, Mother Earth of the long dress that drags over the ground. Farmers, according to legend, offered a llama fetus to Pachamama before planting their crops, or carried out a ceremony to express their gratitude for a bountiful harvest. Venerating Pachamama is still a vital practice in many Andean communities today, and her figure has since become a symbol of the environmental activism movement, representing the need for a harmonious and sustainable relationship with the earth. Mama Coca was the Inca goddess who protected the coca plant, believed to be a sacred species, with numerous spiritual and medicinal properties in Andean culture. They believed that the coca plant had a direct connection to the spirit realm, and chewing its leaves was a way of reaching out to the gods. Mama Coca could grant blessings of good health, fertility, and prosperity to those who respected the plant and used it appropriately. Legend holds that Mama Coca was one of the first beings ever created by the god Viracocha. It is said that she was made from a coca plant and granted the power to control the plant's growth and properties. The goddess was often portrayed holding a bundle of coca leaves, with her image embedded in many Inca rituals and ceremonies. Many indigenous communities in South America continue to venerate her today, and using coca leaves is an important part of their cultural legacy. Ukupacha in Inca mythology was the underworld, or the world of the dead, beneath the earth's surface or the sea. Waterfalls, caves, or other gaps in the earth's soil were considered lines of communication between Ukupacha and K-Pacha, the terrestrial world, where human beings lived. The god Urkagori lived under the mountains between these two realms. He was regarded as the god of jewels, precious metals, and treasures hidden underground. The god watched over treasures and precious stones like a guardian against evil and greedy people who dared to steal them. Urkagori was depicted as a chimerical being. This deity had the body of a snake to crawl underground and a deer-like head. His tail was adorned with gold chains and precious stones. He was the god of hidden treasures and the earth's minerals, something of particular concern to the Incas, who were skilled and keen on metallurgy, especially with precious metals such as gold and silver. One especially important deity in Inca mythology was the goddess of grains, known as Mama Sara. She was regarded as the goddess of corn, one of the most important crops cultivated by the Inca people. Mama Sara ensured the growth and abundance of corn, as well as protecting the crop from pests and diseases. She was often depicted as a woman holding an ear of corn and with a maize stalk growing on top of her head. The Inca people thought that by honoring Mama Sara through offerings and rituals, they could secure a bountiful harvest and a steady supply of food for their community. This took place at the Corn Festival, held every year to celebrate the harvest of the corn crop. Besides her agricultural role, Mama Sara was also associated with facets of fertility and renewal. Corn, with its growth and harvest cycles, was a powerful representation of rebirth and the continuity of life. Mama Sara was therefore often called upon in rituals aimed at promoting fertility, both land and of people. Respect and veneration for corn and its productive deity reflect the Incas' awareness of the interdependence between man and nature. Machu Picchu is a city of the ancient Inca civilization, built in the 15th century by the order of Emperor Pachacuti, one of the most important rulers of this people. In 1983, UNESCO declared it a World Heritage Site, and in 2007, the ancient Inca city was considered one of the wonders of the modern world, representing Latin America alongside Christ the Redeemer. Machu Picchu, which means Old Mountain, is located in the Andes in the Urubamba River Valley, Peru. It is a place surrounded by mountains at 2,400 meters of altitude and only 130 kilometers from Cusco, the former capital of the Incas. Although there are records that the site was known since mid-1860, and even some records about Machu Picchu, the city was officially discovered in 1911 by Hiram Bingham, an American historian and professor at Yale University, during an expedition in Peru in search of an ancient capital called Vilcabamba, where the descendants of the Incas would have taken refuge. After Benjam's arrival in Machu Picchu, the place became known and valued worldwide. He himself returned several times to new exploration and research efforts. Since then, the site has been widely explored and studied. Countless objects have been found, such as knives, vases, earrings, among other things, which made it possible to get to know the civilization better. Many of these artifacts were sent to the United States, the country where Hiram Bingham lived. These pieces remained there for many years, until in 2008, the Peruvian government sued Yale University, claiming that the objects should return to Peru. The dispute lasted some time, and finally, in 2010, the United States decided to send part of the artifacts to the Latin American country. The Inca city is 530 meters long and 200 meters wide. Its structure is divided into an agricultural and an urban part, and these two areas are divided by a moat, a staircase, and a wall. When it was discovered, only 30% of the original structure was left, but since then, there have been several reconstructions. In the urban ruins, there are traces of various places, such as houses, squares, cemeteries, sanctuaries, and also a sundial, or in the Quechua language, Tiahuanaco, which means place where the sun gets tied. This clock is in the highest part of the city and is considered an important sacred point of the Incan city. Related to the calendar of these people, following the movement of the sun, the shadow projected over different points of the artifact. In general, this calendar was associated with astronomical observations such as seasons, the passage of time, and also weather conditions. As far as we know, the Incas had remarkable astronomical knowledge. Another sacred place linked to the religious context is the Temple of the Sun, a circular space. This place was especially dedicated to the solar god, divinity of this civilization, where ceremonies, sacrifices, and offerings took place in this temple. In general, the Incas paid various tributes to the elements of nature, much valued by their civilization. For this reason, there were several temples, such as the Temple of the Moon, the Temple of the Three Windows, and the main temple. In the agricultural chapter, there were terraces for plantations and new environments where food was stored. In this agricultural zone, an important point is the funerary rock, which marks the entrance to the city cemetery, which apparently was built to be a sanctuary. It is a rock with some notched steps. Regarding the funeral part, the Incas practiced mummification. Besides the above mentioned, there are other interesting places scattered around Machu Picchu. The ruins also revealed the great capacity of Inca engineers. The city of Machu Picchu was built with stones whose fitting is remarkably precise. We can verify that they were carved to perfection, resulting in a beautiful and schematic architecture. Most of the stones used in the original construction are still firm and intact, having even withstood 2 earthquakes. It is believed that some parts of the Inca city were adorned with gold and silver, but many original pieces were looted. Today, Machu Picchu is one of Peru's most visited tourist attractions and one of the most famous places in all Latin America, attracting thousands of visitors from all over the world. Besides the charm of the Inca city, the nature of its surroundings also stands out for its beauty, creating an unforgettable scenery for all its visitors. The Tiahuanaco culture was one of the most influential civilizations in the Andes region, particularly in what is now the Bolivian highlands near Lake Titicaca. While much of what we know about the Tiahuanaco culture is based on ruins and archaeological remains, they are still widely viewed as one of the most influential peoples in South America's pre-Columbian history. The first Tiahuanaco settlements originated as tiny farming hamlets that benefited from the Altiplano's abundant plains and the Lake Titicaca waters. With its seasonal rainfall and stable climate, the region was ideal for growing quinoa, potatoes, and other agricultural staples. With time, these villages merged to form an urban center that would eventually become the capital of the Tiahuanaco Empire. The Tiahuanaco society was extremely organized, with a centralized political and religious hierarchy. The ruling elite was formed of priests and nobles who exercised both political and religious control over the population. The Tiahuanaco population had a close connection with the Wari culture. The Wari and Tiahuanaco civilizations shared a common iconography, referred to as the Southern Andean Iconographic Series. This relationship between both civilizations is believed to have been founded on trade, or military aspects. Along with the Wadi, Tiahuanaco probably had contact with several other civilizations. For example, Inca cities have similar architectural infrastructures to those seen in Tiahuanaco. This indicates that the Incas may have drawn inspiration from the Tiahuanaco and other ancient cultures in the Andean basin. The city of Tiahuanaco started out as a small settlement around 1500 BC, but grew over the centuries, particularly during the classical period of the Tiahuanaco culture, when it became the capital of a sprawling empire that extended large areas of the central Andes. The name Tiahuanaco was coined by the Spanish, but the original designation of the city is unknown. One of the outstanding features of the Tiahuanaco culture was its monumental architecture. The Tiahuanaco archaeological site, near Lake Titicaca, is renowned for structures such as the Puerta del Sol, a monolithic gateway chiseled out of stone, and the complex of temples and platforms of Acapana and Calasasaya. The accuracy and complexity of the workmanship, achieved without mortar, is remarkable and indicates a thorough knowledge of engineering and architecture. Some of the major monuments and features of Tiahuanaco include a stepped pyramid named Acapana, probably the ceremonial headquarters of Tiahuanaco. It was built in several layers, with a square foundation and stepped bottoms overlaid with carefully carved stones. There is also a grand rectangular temple encircled by stone walls called Calasasaya. The famous Puerta del Sol is located inside this temple and contains intricate reliefs, including the image of a central deity, possibly the creator god Viracocha. The semi-underground temple is a sunken shrine, notable for its walls, festooned with stone-carved heads, depicting different styles, hinting at different cultural influences or a pantheon of deities. Pumapunku is another massive complex, known for its gigantic stone platforms, some of which weigh more than 100 tons. The stone cutting and fitting techniques of Pumapunku are exceptionally accurate, sparking many theories about the technology level attained by this civilization. Tiahuanaco's economy was agriculture-based, but also included fishing and trade. They developed advanced agricultural methods, such as the waru-waru, elevated fields that made it possible to grow crops efficiently, even on flooded land. The Tiahuanaco civilization spread its influence through alliances and trade, stretching into what is now southern Peru, northern Chile, and parts of Argentina. Religion was central to life in Tiahuanaco, with the city serving as a pilgrimage site for religious rituals and ceremonies. The images of deities that have been found in the ruins, especially that of Viracocha, reveal the influence of religion on Tiahuanaco society. Its art, including ceramics, textiles, and sculptures, was highly adorned with religious and symbolic motifs, like anthropomorphic figures and sacred animals. Around 1000 AD, the Tiahuanaco civilization entered into decline. The specific causes are hotly debated, but may have included climatic changes, such as prolonged droughts, damaging agricultural output, as well as internal conflicts and external pressure from other groups. Following the decline of Tiahuanaco, its descendants and cultural legacies continued to exert an influence on other Andean civilizations, such as the Incas, who revered Tiahuanaco as a sacred place and adopted many of its cultural elements. The Tiahuanaco culture made a lasting impact on Andean history, not only through its monumental ruins, but also through its cultural and religious influence on later civilizations. The Tiahuanaco archaeological complex is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site and continues to be a major archaeological and historical attraction. Mama Kea, known as Mother Moon, is a key entity in Incan mythology and religion. She personifies the moon and is worshipped as the protector of women and female festivities. Moon played a vital role not only in religious and mythological matters, but also in everyday life, influencing agricultural and social customs. Mama Kea was the sister and wife of the sun god Inti and the mother of Manco Capac and Mama Ocllo, the Inca Empire's mythical founders. Not only did she represent the moon as a goddess, but she also epitomized the passage of time and menstrual cycles, and was deeply ingrained in agricultural rituals and fertility ceremonies. Mama Kea had a major role in agricultural cycles. The moon was used to estimate the weather and establish the ideal times for planting and harvesting. It was believed that its phases affected plant growth and crop yields. There were numerous Inca festivals and rituals devoted to Mama Kia. During Koyoraimi, a September festival, women played a central part in the celebrations. These festivals included dances, offerings, and rituals, seeking the protection and blessing of Mother Moon. Mama Kia was often portrayed in Inca artifacts and temples. Her iconography included images of the moon in its different phases, while she was frequently depicted with silver, a metal that symbolized the moon in Inca culture. Venerating Mama Kia is still an important part of contemporary Andean traditions. In Inca mythology, Inti is the sun god. He was not merely a celestial symbol, but also a mainstay of daily life, agriculture, and the Incan political organization. Inti was often portrayed with images of the sun, beaming rays of light. Temples dedicated to Inti, such as Coricancha, Temple of the Sun, in Cusco, were built with much splendor. In particular, the Coricancha was clad in gold plates, symbolizing the bright and sacred connection with the sun god. The Inti cult was firmly rooted in Inca society. It was celebrated through several festivals and rituals, most notably the winter solstice festival Inti Raymi, one of the most important celebrations in the Inca calendar. Sacrifices and offerings were made during Inti Raymi to secure Inti's benevolence, crucial for prosperous harvests and the people's well-being. As the sun god, Inti was regarded as vital for agriculture. The Incas believed that his warmth and light were crucial for growing crops. Agricultural cycles were planned according to the sun's motions, and Inti was called upon to bless the crops and protect the land. Inti also had an important role to play in Inca politics. The Inca rulers, known as Sapa Incas, were seen as Inti's direct representatives on Earth. This association not only reinforced the ruler's authority, but also provided an outlet for unifying the empire under divinely sanctioned leadership. Inti adoration lived on as a central element of Andean culture, even after the Spanish conquest. His influence is seen in contemporary traditions and in festivities that are still celebrated as a tribute to him in the Andes. Mama Wako, the warrior mother, is a major figure in the Incan Empire's mythology and history. She was regularly described as a fierce warrior and a sacred priestess, boasting both physical strength and spiritual power. Mythology holds that Mama Wako was the bravest of all the Incas who gave rise to the legendary empire. Her fierce reputation was that of a warrior who led armies into battle. Her savagery in combat was unparalleled. Mama Wako was merciless towards her enemies and even tore them to pieces on the battlefield, panicking the opposing troops into fleeing instead of fighting. She also carried the golden rod with which the site in the Cusco Valley was laid out, where the future Inca capital would be located. Mama Wako is also important for highlighting the role of women in Inca society. Although many cultures of the time consigned women to secondary roles, the Incas recognized the importance of women both in leadership roles and in religious ceremonies. With her strength, courage, and skill, both on the battlefield and in sacred rituals, Mama Wako epitomized female power within the Inca social and religious structure. Mama Alpa was the fertility goddess in Inca mythology, in charge of securing the fertility of the land, animals, and people. Portrayed with numerous breasts, symbolizing her ability to nurture and support all her children, Mama Alpa was also behind successful harvests, providing human beings with abundant food. Mama Alpa was the wife of the god of the sky, Pachacamac. Ancient stories say that the sky god would send rain to fertilize Mama Alpa, the earth, and sustain life from it. The goddess was worshipped together with other Inca pantheon deities and was often summoned to uphold balance and harmony in the natural world. Her rites and cults were tied to the planting and harvesting of quinoa, a grain held sacred in Inca culture. Even today, people still pay tribute to Mama Alpa through traditional rituals and offerings, such as the burning of coca leaves or the pouring of chicha, a fermented corn drink. Axomama was one of the substantial number of deities worshipped by the Incas, who believed that the natural world was imbued with sacred power and that all things were connected. She was considered a formidable force in the life-sustaining cycles of growth and renewal. The goddess was known as the Mother of Potatoes, one of the staple foods of the Andean peoples, which had significant importance not just nutritionally, but also culturally and economically. She was frequently portrayed holding a basket of potatoes and a variety of agricultural tools, hoes and planting poles, symbolizing her role in nourishing the land and ensuring a bountiful harvest. Potatoes were highly esteemed by the Incas and regarded as sacred. They were used in rituals and religious ceremonies, and growing them was intimately connected to the worship of Axomama and other agricultural deities. Besides her association with the potato, the goddess was also bound to other crops, such as corn, quinoa, and beans. Axomama was believed to be responsible for securing a bountiful harvest and protecting the people who depended on the crop for their survival. Axomama veneration, as such, mirrors the ingrained dependence and respect the Incas had for the natural world, as well as their ability to adapt and thrive in an often challenging environment.